Hello, my creative friends, and welcome to another episode of The Daily Prompt. If you're new around here, my name is Jeff Ballo. I'm an independent film producer attempting to build an independent film studio that produces lots and lots of films every year to try to help writers learn how to not just write screenplays, but to write screenplays that actually get turned into movies, and to teach them the process of how to write for production, which is quite different to just writing for a screenplay itself. Now, this series, The Daily Prompt, builds upon my basic premise that the only way you're ever actually going to get to where you're trying to go is if you take physical, ongoing daily action. It's literally not possible to achieve a dream or a goal or a vision or an idea in your head if you don't make it real. If you don't take it out of your head, put it onto the page, see what reality has to say about it, and then circumvent the challenges and obstacles that pop up along the way. So this series is really about each day. I'm going to take my experience. I'm going to give you a little piece of insight, a little piece of inspiration, give you some ideas and tips and tricks and suggestions and perspective, and then sort of turn it into a prompt, an action prompt at the end of each episode. So in this video, what I want to talk about is it's impossible. So of the past couple of steps, I've sort of outlined the strategy in broad terms of how I'm going to go about building this independent film studio. And one of the great things that pops up along the way once you do that is that people either say or think or present back to you the notion that what you're suggesting is more or less impossible for this or this reason. And for me, I'm more than happy for you to write negative comments or to tell me what's wrong with my thinking, because you're basically presenting the obstacles that reality is going to throw at me. So then I can sort of go, oh, that's a really good point. How do I navigate that? How do I circumvent that problem? So I welcome any feedback. I welcome any comments, positive or negative, whatever you think. If you have any questions, if any aspect of any of this is not clear, pop it into the comments below. I think it's super, super important. But what I want to talk about today is this whole idea that it's impossible. If you have a big goal, a big dream, something like writing movies, and you're far away from Hollywood or you really don't know anyone in that industry, the people around you have your, I don't know that they always have your best interest at heart, but they will often tell you that's impossible, that's a pipe dream, that's not realistic. Let go of that, start pursuing something a little bit more realistic. And the reason people say that and think that is sometimes it's malicious, sometimes it's they want to keep you down, but I really think that most people are motivated by good intentions ultimately. So I don't think they're actually trying to knock you down as much as they're trying to save you from some heartache after putting a lot of time and energy and care and passion into something that ultimately doesn't succeed, or to them at least looks like it's not really something feasible to succeed with. Here's the thing about movies in general. Today, as I've said through previous episodes here, we can make movies anywhere. We can distribute movies from anywhere. This is not a difficult thing. The skills that you're going to develop to be able to write movies, to be able to create movies and distribute movies, those skills are transferable. Those skills are applicable in a huge array of places, more and more and more each year, if you focus them elsewhere. So, for example, business marketing, business itself, and applying storytelling tools to building a company's social media presence, or advertising, or internal, how to solve problems within. One of my sort of side ventures is to apply storytelling to a business scenario as a problem-solving tool. If you understand, because storytelling and story is so intrinsic and it's so universal, it's how we communicate with one another. It's one of the ways that we expand ideas to one another. Because that's true of human interaction, learning how to tell stories at a professional level is actually an extremely valuable skill that is entirely portable and entirely usable in a huge array. Pretty much, I can't think of a single arena in which it would not be a viable skill. Maybe I'm not not thinking of every nook and cranny, but at the end of the day, it is an incredibly valuable skill that I believe everyone should learn and should understand, which goes back to why I believe everyone should write a movie, why everyone should end up making a movie. Now, Now, my ambition is to build this independent film studio that makes literally a film for everyone who completes the system. Now, when I suggest something like that, I get questions often about how are you going to afford that? Like, how does the money work? That's impossible. Or even if they don't say that's impossible, like, how does that work? And so I wanted to sort of briefly outline how that works. And the way that I'm going to build it, the whole point of what I'm trying to build is that we start small and we bootstrap. So as a proof of concept, we're going to make independent, low budget projects initially for zero budget or as close to zero budget as we can. Because we've made it for so little money, however much we sell of it, people downloading it online or selling it to Netflix or whatever it might be, whatever we make from that is largely profit. The writer can get some money, we can get some money, and with that money, we make the next one. And because we're focused on writer-driven stories, because we're focused on story and creating interesting and engaging stories that an audience can be compelled into, because it's all about sort of hooking that audience, pulling them in, making them want to see this thing, and then over-delivering on what our promises were. I'll get into that basic philosophy in upcoming episodes. But because that's sort of the premise of it, if we start small and we keep it lean and we make very low budget stuff at first, we can piggyback, we can snowball. So the future projects are made with the proceeds of the earlier projects. Now the goal is to quickly move beyond the no budget stuff and move into the low budget stuff. I still believe that every writer should at least bust their chops. Every writer should at least get their chops on anyway. Sometimes I'm doing this stuff, stream of consciousness, and the words just don't come. I think everyone should cut their teeth on, is that the phrase? Should cut their teeth on the low budget film, because partly that's going to focus your creativity into the limitations of the budget and in the limitations of the production. It's actually going to strengthen your creativity because you have to work within parameters. If you learn how to do that, that's actually part of the skill of writing for production, which then when you apply that even to a big top, $200 million studio film, if you have those skills, that creativity is easily adaptable in that situation. Just because you have all the money in the world doesn't mean you can make whatever you want, because even at the highest budget, believe it or not, there are limitations in what you can do. Just time, for one thing, how long it takes to make some of the things that you might imagine. Or anyway, the point being, developing these skills will be done through this production mechanism, which becomes self-sustaining pretty much out of the gate. Now, you can say, well, what about those early projects? Here's the deal. If we don't get anyone on board, if no one wants to help me out with this, no one wants to join me, no one wants to do that, that's fine. I'm going to then write and make projects. I'm then going to do all of the work myself for free on my little no-budget film so that I can make the proceeds that I can then pour into the gradually bigger and bigger budget projects. I say that to you now, knowing full well you can go out and do exactly the same thing yourself. Now, is it better to become part of this, or is it better to go do it yourself? That's entirely for you to decide. But no one anymore can tell you that it's impossible to do, because I've just showed you how I'm going to do it. Now, ultimately, my goal is to help every writer for every writer who actually goes all the way, I want to give them incentive that we're actually going to make those projects. So every writer that goes through. Now, let's just imagine worst case scenario, best case scenario, whatever it might be. We get thousands of people that want to jump on board and join and do it? Is it actually feasible to make hundreds or even thousands of projects? Yes, it absolutely is. Why? Because we can do this anywhere. And here's the other thing. As much as you might want to write screenplays, as much as you might want to develop those skills and create that, there are other people out there who want to make films, who want to direct films, who want to be cinematographers, who want to be editors, who want to develop the other skills in the industry. So for those people, if we have these projects and we can demonstrate that these projects have a distribution outlet, which is what I'm also going to be focusing on as part of this plan, if we can demonstrate that as we make these indie films, we're going to have an audience for them, that's what I'm starting to build here, what I will be expanding out to build as we go along, particularly once this show starts going on the road. We start building the audience, then at some point we're going to have the audience to be able to sustain watching the projects. At some point we go beyond just the people watching for educational standpoint and into watching the movies because the movies that we make are good. Now, I'm saying all this assuming that it's going to be good. I'm saying all this assuming that we're going to reach the quality levels as quickly as I'm hoping that we're going to reach. I believe that we will. I believe that we will because I know what the process is and I know how to get there and I know step by step how to take writers through that. And I know how to share that with you. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. When someone tells you it's impossible, anything in life is impossible, what they're saying is that it's impossible for them. So if somebody tells you something, anything is impossible, and you know how to do that thing, and you have a plan for how to do that thing, you've got to just kind of nod and say, okay, well, I got to give it a try because that's me. You've got to say, I'm going to pursue this even though it's possible. The impossible is absolutely possible. As long as you know where you're going and you know what to do. And if you're just starting out, you don't know where you're going and you don't know what to do. But by taking that path, by falling down and failing, you go, oh, that didn't work. Let me pick myself up. Let me dust myself off. And then I'll try going this way. And if you persist, and if you keep moving forward, and if you keep taking action, there is nothing you cannot achieve. Now, I think there are probably things that violate the physical laws of nature. So there's going to be somebody in there that comments, well, this is not possible. Okay. But if there's something that you want to achieve in your life, and it's impossible, and everyone around you tells you it's impossible, it's just because they can't see how to make it happen. Don't necessarily get upset with them. Pull back, understand, hey, or assume, hey, they've got my best interests at heart. They don't know, because I'm going to make this happen. So let's pull this back into a daily prompt for you today. To make the impossible possible, what you need to do is you need to be able to see realistically, plausibly, how you're going to make something happen. So you really need to think about, how am I going to make this happen? I'll give you an example. When it comes to screenwriting, for example, when it comes to learning this craft, you can go out and you can read books. Lots of different books out there. There's literally hundreds of books. And I strongly recommend that you do that. Go read books. That's fine. I got no problem with any books. What I do is not competitive with anyone else. We're doing our thing. Join us or not. You can do books. You can do classes, courses, workshops. Go to seminars. You can do live events with people. You can interact with a coach. You can interact with with somebody who's going to guide you through it. At the end of the day, my belief is that the only person whose opinion matters is the person who's going to help you achieve whatever it is you're setting out to achieve. So, for example, if you're writing a screenplay and you send it out for notes and 3 of your writing friends and your mom send you feedback back on that, and they're all conflicting opinions because everybody's got an opinion, who do you listen to? What do you value the most? The person who's been at it the longest? The person who can help you get where you're trying to go? Your mom, because she loves you. At the end of the day, there's only one opinion that's going to matter, and that is going to be the opinion of the person who will say yes to your project. That's not going to be me. That's not going to be your friends. That's not going to be any of that stuff. So at the end of the day, we have to, at the end of the day, what you want to do is you want to focus on how do I make the impossible possible. If you're going to actually pursue this path, if you're actually going to go down this road, what is your path going to be? Which path do you choose? Now, you don't have to, it's not always a either or situation. You don't have to get a book and then not do anything else. You don't have to watch this show and then tune everything else out. At the end of the day, do all of it. At the end of the day, absorb as much as you can. Just remember to keep taking action with it. So the prompt for today got a little messy there at the end. But the prompt for today is to really stop after this is over. Go quiet for a minute. Think about this. Process what I've talked about here today, and take physical action on this one simple idea. How are you going to get where you're trying to go? What is the path that you want to take? Now, this is a little bit similar to what we've talked about previously, but I want to get very specific about it. Do you want to, are you going to use some guide, or are you going to follow through intuitively? Are you going to hope for the best, just start writing and hope for the best? Different things work for different people. I'm not suggesting any one of those is better or worse. Or are you going to actually take consistent, ongoing daily action toward that? That's what I think you have to do. That's what I think you should do. I think at the end of the day, the impossible is only impossible to people who don't know how to get there. If that's you, and so you're doubting yourself at this point because you're not really sure your goal, your dream, your story is possible, you're probably right, because you don't know how to do it yet. So the prompt is figure out how to do it. I'm going to cover a lot of stuff on this series, but I'm going to be throwing daily prompts at you. So over time, you'll have what you need to know from this series. But it's not sequential, and it's going to take time and all that. Is that a good path for you? Would you rather take another path? At the end of the day, as long as you figure out how to make your impossible possible, let me tell you why I'm trying to convey this. I'm seeing in some of the comments, I'm getting the vibe that a lot of people are watching and absorbing some of what's here, but they're not following up and taking action. They're not actually doing something each day. The only way this is going to work is if you take action each day. The only way you're going to make the impossible possible is if you take action every day, or at least 5 days a week, I would say. If you're not taking action, physical action, moving towards your goal 5 days a week, you're doing feel good. You're feeling good about all the things that you're learning, but you're not actually moving forward towards it. I'll talk more about that in an upcoming video, because that's a key point. Information is not the same as experience. Information is not the same as skill. We'll talk about that in an upcoming episode. But for now, wherever you are, if this is an impossible dream for you, if you really truly ask yourself honestly in your gut, do you feel like this is impossible? Do you feel like this is all fun and interesting and that guy's kind of quirky, but I don't really think this is possible? Like, in your heart of heart, do you think this is really possible? Because if you don't, you have to figure out how to change that attitude in your mind. Because not only is it possible, I can show you exactly how to make it happen. So you can't tell me it's not possible. So depending on where you are in your journey, some people watching this, I know you're much further along. You've been working at it for years. Has the has the lack of success along the way worn you down a little bit and made you think, well, I mean, maybe I'm just not cut out for it, or maybe it's not really possible, but I'm hanging on to that belief. At the end of the day, whatever you imagine is doable. You have to follow through. You have to figure out how you're going to convert it from the impossible to the possible. I'll show you the roadmap if you want, but you have to figure out which path you want to take. So, hopefully that makes sense. If not, pop questions down there. By the way, guys, just pop feedback into the comments, if you will, as well. It takes 2 seconds. It really helps me out. It helps me understand how you're interpreting this stuff. I find that if I try to get these episodes ahead in the can, like if I try to record multiples in a day, the problem is I get further separated from the comments. And I kind of think this is most valuable if we do this each day. More work on my part, not always possible, but the impossible is always possible. So there's a way to make that happen. Whew. Do as I say, not as I do. No, just kidding. Anyway, so if there's any questions, pop them in the and whatever feedback you have, pop it into the thing below. But whatever you do, please, I beg you, I implore you, subscribe. But also, I implore you, take action, follow through. That's the only way we're gonna get where we're trying to go. Okay? See you tomorrow.